Okay, I'm going to do a quick review of Sound of Freedom. I'm not going to be doing reviews like I used to anymore. I'm not going to be doing reactions as much. Because today is not the day I saw the movie, and once I don't do it on the day I see the movie, I'm kind of delayed and I don't say the right things, and I've not been doing things in the right order anymore. So these are my new glasses, so if I look weirder, I don't know why you can see my eyes better, so much better. I know the frames are much thinner, but still, it's not like it was black of my whole face. But so yeah, so I'm gonna try to maybe do more compilation reviews, like do them but then put them together later on or something. So the reason I'm doing this one is because this movie is important and people need to see it, and it's not just good because it's important. I assumed, spoilers, I'm just say spoilers now, but the point is, before spoilers, this movie is about a problem that's been a problem in this country for a very long time. And I first heard about this 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. I had seen, I don't remember if it was a TV movie or TV miniseries with Mira Sorvino in it. I feel like Robert Carlyle was also in it, but maybe there were two stories and I'm combining them in my mind because this was a long time ago. I saw it once a long time ago. But for those of us who were reviled and certain horrible things were said about us for the way we vote, or why we vote for certain people, or why we wanted certain things done long before certain people were even running for president. It's because of everybody votes for their own experience, their own information, and I had information that, like the things happening in this movie, that made me think the things I think. And if everybody else can understand what's been going on for a long time with trafficking of specifically children, then maybe they can understand why the people they hated voted the way they did, and it wasn't for bad reasons. It wasn't because of hate. It was because of a lot of things. But so spoilers for the movie. So Jim Caviezel, it plays a real life guy who, like, I haven't been watching certain news. I've been, so I didn't know about this particular man. He at some point, he worked in law enforcement. I believe he was Homeland Security, and he, they were catching pedophiles, but they weren't rescuing the kids. And somebody gave him a hard time about that, so he ended up wanting to rescue a kid, or rescue some kids, before he retired. And this is kind of the story of what happens. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but I'm expecting it to be, like some of the movies that are made that gear towards a certain crowd, movies that, people who don't want to watch R-rated movies, people who are, Christians, and, don't want to watch any bad stuff. Sometimes the movies that are geared towards them have a TV movie look to them. They look cheap. This is not the case. I forgot the other actor's name. I gotta look that up. You have Caviezel, and what got to me, because I was thinking about this issue. I was sitting in the theater thinking about this issue, thinking about how long I've known about it, how long I thought it was something that needed to be dealt with, how long our open border allows for it. And I'll get into that in a minute. But and I was sitting there thinking of Mira Sorvino in this movie, or TV movie, or whatever, that I'd seen, like I said, years and years and years ago. I'm gonna look up the name of it. But and I started crying, because I know that for wanting the right thing to be done, for having my own mind, I was called words that I never was, words like racist and stuff like that, because you weren't against building a wall, because you thought maybe there should be a wall long before Donald Trump was running for president. Because you knew of the horrors, you knew about coyotes, you knew what they were doing to these innocent people who were trying to come here to get a better life for themselves. They just were doing it in a roundabout way, instead of going through proper channels and proper immigration and waiting in line, they, for whatever reason, felt they had to come this other way, and that let them be prey for these coyotes. And there have been stories about it. There were big movies. There were other movies that either did or didn't get the heat that this one did, that had similar. I mean, Maria Full of Grace was these are the fancy pants movies. What was the other one? Sin Nombre. That had something of this, but it wasn't specifically small children and what pedophilia really means, because there's a different word. I forget what it is, but there's a different word for when adults want to have sexual relations with children who are post-pubescent, meaning kids who already went through puberty, meaning teenagers. And that to me is two different things. It's neither is exactly correct, but when you're a pedophile, there's something wrong with you. And whether you need to be, you know, murdered or imprisoned or whatever, you need to be studied. And that's how I used to see it. I think we're at a point in time now where life is so bad that we don't have time to do what I would do, which is, you know, not judge people and try to understand and fix people if you can. I don't think we're at that stage in life anymore, or in the world. I don't think there's time. There's too many people. There's too much mess, unfortunately, and things are just off the rails. So I was thinking of that, and I was starting to tear up because I felt so bad about how propaganda and agendas and stuff can take a country and divide it over an issue that everybody should have a problem with, or an issue that people don't understand why you view things a certain way or why you want certain things to happen, because they just, that their side, the other side that they're on, tells them that we're the bad guys because we don't agree with them. So they make up, they throw out words like racist and all these things to cover up for the fact that, yeah, we have a point, and if they knew what we knew, or they were thinking what we're thinking, they may agree with us. And God forbid red and blue should agree, right? Which, like I said, I'm not red or blue. I'm not even purple. I'm clear. I'm clear-minded, okay? So right as I'm thinking about all that, and I'm thinking about this movie I'd seen years ago with Mira Sorvino, there she is. She appears on the screen. And I was like, oh my God, that's her. I thought I hallucinated for a second. She plays his wife. She's not in it a lot. She's in a couple scenes. But I was glad to see her there, because it was, for me, an acknowledgement that she'd been down this road a long time ago. Nobody listened. And it must have been horrible to be a popular actress, make a movie. I don't see her much. I don't know if she suffered consequences for being in a movie like that. Who knows? You know? But it was good to see her there. But like I said, you feel bad because people try to bring your attention to this topic 2 decades ago. And I don't know what you're doing. Instead, I was watching all the popular movies. I was watching all the Oscar movies, and I managed to watch that too. Let me look up the title of this thing. Hold on. Okay, it was a miniseries. There were 4 episodes. It did have Robert Carlyle and Mira Sorvino in it. Donald Sutherland. It was from 2005. Okay, so like I said, that's almost 20 years ago. Hundreds of thousands of young women have vanished from their everyday lives, forced by violence into a hellish existence of brutality and prostitution. From what I remember from the movie, from what I remember from the story, the point is, at the time, and this is what I came to know would happen. You would have people would come to this country looking for a better life or whatever. Maybe they come from places that were ravaged, gang ravaged, you know, and they come over, however they come over. And the coyotes, if you don't know anything about the subject, coyotes are these like guides. They find these people. They tell them, oh, we'll take you to the United States. You'll get a better life. We'll help you. We'll show you, like, you know, like shepherds. You know what I mean? They'll show you the way through, you know, I don't know, I would say desert. Through, you know, whatever they got to get through to get here. And then they'll, you know, once they get here, so they charge them money. It's like, oh, it's $5,000 or something like that, right? To get these people to help you come here. So you give the coyote $5,000. You come with you and your daughter, and your daughter's 14 years old. But this was the story I would hear from before. And then you come over, and then you get over the border. And then these coyotes give you to other coyotes or other people, I don't know if they're still called coyotes, who now take the daughter, and it's like, okay, well, it's okay, now where's the other $5,000? And the dad goes, what other $5,000? We gave him the other $5,000. Oh, you don't have it? Well, she's going to have to work it off. And then the daughter at 14 years old becomes a prostitute to pay off. She's basically a slave, becomes a prostitute to pay off this extra $5,000. And that's why I never understood. I'm like, I know it's bad back home, but does nobody send message back, this is what happens to you? Or is everybody too embarrassed? Because, so all that time, when all this stuff was happening, I knew this human trafficking was going on, and I was being told by the other side that I couldn't say, you know, certain words, you couldn't say it was illegal. At the same time, you said it was immigration. You couldn't call it certain things, you know. So, because it made you a racist. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This thing is harming these people. You know what I mean? No, you can come to this country legally, but, and, you know, a long time ago, I don't know if this stuff went on, but there's a whole new problem. It's the same way a lot of drugs and everything else gets across the border, is through, you know, because the border is too porous. You know, it's too leaky. If people could just, you know, and these people took advantage. And I believe there's people who take advantage here. And they're probably guys in suits who run immigration assistance centers and stuff like that. Who knows what they do to these people? You know what I mean? But because those people are coming and they know they're here and they came in a way that wasn't legal, then they are afraid to go to the police. So in the end, closed border would have helped them, or because they wouldn't end up in this nightmare, following a dream and getting a nightmare. I mean, there's some people who really have to get out of a bad situation. There's always been asylum for that. So for those of us who saw, and there's problems, it causes problems for Americans too. If people do come here and then there's not enough room, we have a huge homelessness problem. There's not all kinds of unemployment. These are jobs that unskilled Americans used to do, some of them in fish houses or factories or whatever. You know, Americans with not much education used to do those jobs, but over the years those jobs got, you know, given specifically to people who were not here legally, and therefore they would be afraid to contact any kind of representation, and they could be treated like shit. Not to this extent, but, you know, so there was all kinds of ways that Americans or people who were in this country were taking advantage of these poor people. And this has been going on. Now this story is specifically about children, kids, little kids, and it's disgusting, and it goes on. And the problem is that over the last political cycle, with the hatred of Trump and people really trying to win an election and making everything be racist, everything gets lost. Everything is a lie now. Everything coming through the television is a lie. So if you say something that people don't hear in the television, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're this, you're that, you're the other thing. Whether it's Hollywood or whether it's some other crazy group of people who for whatever reason want to take children and use them in a Dark Crystal kind of way. Rewatch the Dark Crystal. Okay? Because that, I honestly, not the new series that, what was it on Disney? I don't even know. I try to watch it. I couldn't watch it. Or was it just a movie? I don't know. The original Dark Crystal. I know that sounds stupid. I know exactly what I mean. Sometimes children's stories, just like the Big Bad Wolf, sometimes children's stories are dressed up in a fantasy, and there's, you know, but it's really about human monsters and what they do. So, yeah, the story, it's actually a good movie. I was surprised by that, because I was expecting, like I'm saying, that sort of TV movie looking way that some of these movies that are geared towards people, and I believe it's PG-13, Sound of Freedom. And it didn't shy away, but it wasn't explicit, it wasn't graphic. but you knew what was happening. I just thought of a movie from when it was a TV movie from when I was a kid. Everybody back in the day, back in the 80s, everybody expected everybody to be more sophisticated. So everything wasn't whitewashed and tempered down. There was a movie with the girl from, the woman from, National Lampoon's, that one Audrey. She had been in a movie. Okay, National Lampoon's. Anyway. But there were movies about these sort of things where, you know, young women especially were being treated or were being molested. It was, we called them molested. Everybody calls everything whatever now. But in this movie, there's no two ways about it. They're letting you know what's happening to these kids. And it's not just what you think of as molested. These kids are being raped. The idea that there was these huge organizations, well, I mean, I'm looking at the nightly news right now. Oh, okay, and I'm a little bit distracted. Hold on. Okay, so Audrey from European Vacation was played by Dana Hill, who has since passed away many years ago. But there was a movie I saw when I was young. So this came out in 1981. There was a TV movie called Fallen Angel. And I always remembered it because it was like, I'll read you the IMDb synopsis. So in 1981, I was 8 years old. But I remember seeing this and being scared. It's not funny, but 12-year-old Jennifer is unhappy with her widowed mom's relationship with a family friend. Feeling lonely, she readily accepts the friendship of an adult man named Howie and joins the softball team he coaches. Soon, Howie's convincing Jennifer to pose for photographs, which become more and more revealing. Howie turns out to be a pedophile who works in child pornography, and he plans to make Jennifer a star. Will Jennifer's mother be able to help her daughter before it's too late? Now, see, these movies were... This was a TV movie. I saw this as a kid. I was 8. I don't know. There's something... I'm Gen X, so obviously. There's something that happened with the subsequent generations where they see more. I don't know if it's because they're more protected. They had helicopter parents. I don't know, but it seems like they're more at risk. And there's more happens to kids now than they did back then. I mean, I think it was 1980 when Adam happened. The boy Adam that John... the dad made the TV show and it used to come on every week. The one with the missing children. And it was because of him that they made laws and, you know, so you would think that after all that, and you would think that having helicopter parents would make the kids safer, but I feel like in a backwards way, it almost made them have less survival skills of their own. So when they are out there in the world, it's not, I don't know, it's worse somehow, but in this case is specifically about in the movie. But I'm saying these movies have been around, and everybody's supposed to have known what was going on, but somehow children are still at risk, and there's still these people. When I was, like I said, when I was growing up, becoming a teenager, thinking about people and how they were, you know, the idea was that there's something wrong with these people. So the movies were trying to figure out what was wrong with pedophiles. Why do they do this and stuff like that? And that's where I came from. That's the kind of mentality I had about it. I don't class, you know, grown men who find 16-year-olds attractive as that, because in my mind it's a totally different thing. But anyway, because there's something really wrong with you if you can see a little kid and I don't know what's it's like, because, okay, when I was in college and they taught people about rape, it was like, rape isn't because somebody finds somebody attractive. Rape is a violent act. So people who do this to children, it cannot possibly be that they find them attractive and they want some kind of sexual relationship with a child. This is a sickness, and this is something that's really wrong. But that there's this whole, I guess the internet did it, that there's this whole shadow industry I don't know, but the fact that there's that many people who broker in this stuff, it's anyway. The movie ends up being good, and the performances were good, the kids were great. I know I recognize the dad from something, I don't know what. It could have been Sicario or Traffic. I recognize him. Let's see. Jim Caviezel looked okay with blonde hair, which was surprising. You know, it's funny. I'm putting in sound on Letterboxd, and I have to spell out the whole title almost for it to come up. Directed by Alejandro Monteverde. 131 minutes. Yeah, I gave it a 10. Let's see. So Jim Caviezel, Mira Sorvino, Bill Camp. I never know that man's name. Bill Camp. He did a good job in it. Kurt Fuller, we know from a million things. Gerardo Terracina. I gotta look this man up because I swear I was sitting there watching. I just saw his profile and I said, "Oh my God, is that my boyfriend from Apocalypto?" Look, first thing that pops up is Apocalypto. Yeah, it was like his profile. Even he put on weight, you know, but his profile was like, "Oh my God, that's my guy." Of course, he's horrible in it. But it makes you wonder. Even his scene with the girl makes you wonder if it's not some kind of yeah, it makes you wonder what goes on in their heads, because the way I was taught it, it was like the molesters were molested in a long tradition going back, I guess from the beginning. As I'm saying this, the Nightly News is saying that Larry Nassar got stabbed in prison. Again, people who want to molest young women, people who take advantage of young women, and whether they're little girls or whatever, it's a pervasive sickness, and it needs to be dealt with. And in this case of the movie, it's a border situation that the more you ignore that open border, the more this kind of stuff is going to happen. The more coyotes are going to harm people, even if it's not in a situation where they end up trafficking the children. They're still abusing the people who come here, and they're using them to circumvent labor laws, to treat these people badly, to do what they can to people who do have recourse. I mean, you could still go to the law, but since you are here under different circumstances, you're less likely to do that. So, to make a long story short, too late. It's a good movie. Am I giving it more points? No, because I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing to take away. There wasn't bad lighting. There wasn't bad cinematography. It was, it very much acted like a thriller. There were points where I was very afraid, and you know, like, are they gonna make it kind of feeling. And so it on top of everything else, it is a good movie. If you just watched this on TV one afternoon thinking that it was just a made-up story and no kids are ever harmed anywhere, it would still be an interesting story. You would keep on and you would watch it to the end. But the fact is, this is something that happens, and it's been a good 20 years that I realized that most of the time you find out things usually from documentaries or from independent film. And we all want to get away. We all want to watch. We all want to have our Calgon. We all want to watch superhero movies, action movies, comedies. We all want to watch those things and stuff like that. But there's a responsibility to watch these kinds of movies too, if not just to educate yourself, to also make sure that the people in charge know that these movies are important, and you want to see them, and you want to know what's going on. You want all parts of humanity represented, even the worst, so we know that they're there and we can't ignore it. And it's entirely possible that the people who make our superhero movies and these things would not want this to be seen, because they may be involved in that sort of thing. I have no idea. I don't know what anybody's doing. I know that just as a fan, I've heard of many child stars having a really difficult time. I know a lot of child stars either OD'd or committed suicide, and who knows when people supposedly commit suicide now if they really were doing that. I'm thinking of somebody specific right now, and I always wondered, but if anybody would ever listen to me, go see the movie. If you're on the AMC A list, use one of your times. It's not, if you don't feel like seeing it because you don't feel like being depressed, well, you know, then don't vote, because I don't think people like you should vote. If you can't stomach real problems in our society, you can't even know about it, what good are you doing anybody using your vote in a frivolous fashion? You know, because you don't just vote for presidents, you don't just vote for governors, you also vote for issues. You know, there are ballot questions sometimes, and if you don't know the world you live in, how are you accurately heading to the polls and doing your civic duty? Because you're just doing what serves you. There's a bunch of people in this world who need other people who are in a position to use their minds to help them, and especially little children, whether they're yours or not, whether they look like you or not, whether they come from the same country as you or not. They need help. Where's the dad from? I just remembered I was supposed to look up where I knew the dad from. See, my brain's scattered nowadays. That's why I have I got fixated on the guy from Jose Zuniga. Twilight. I never watched those. He was like basically in everything. He's been in a lot of movies. But I'm thinking of something specific. I gotta rewatch Hunted. That keeps coming up. There's something specific I know him from. What does that even say? Dark Tower, The Call. None of these in the movie I'm thinking of. I've seen a lot of them. Just gonna wait next up. Wonderland. Duel. No, I'm not seeing the one that I... This is weird. I thought this guy was in Traffic or something, but, something I would have known him well from, but look at this. Why does not... Sound of Freedom doesn't have a poster. Because I was looking at it in his group of movies, and it's just there like that. See? Without a poster. Don't tell me there isn't a specific agenda to block things. Don't tell me that. I don't know how much this movie made. It must have made a lot of money, because I had wanted to go on July 4th, but when I first heard of it and I looked at the theater, all the good seats were gone. It was only the front row seats, you know, and I was like, oh, or right squished in the middle of a bunch of people. So I was like, well, let me see. So I went on, did I go on Thursday? Yeah, I went on Thursday. That's why, and this now is Monday. So this is what I'm saying. I'm not coming home. I was all flabbergasted and I was crying and all this stuff like that. But I had something else going on in my own life, so I got distracted by it. And I didn't quickly do this. So, but yeah, like I said, I gave it a 10 out of 10. Is it probably a 9? Yeah. Is it lower than that? No, because there's nothing really wrong with it. But everybody needs to see this, because I don't see movies like this much anymore. You know, where people made a movie for good reason, and they really, you know, like I said, I don't even know. Let me see, Sin Nombre. I want to make sure I'm not missing, yeah, Letterboxd gotta help me out when I spell things wrong, because, okay, 2009, they came on the train. I remember sitting on top of the train. Wasn't exactly the same as this. What was the other one? But it's scary. It's a scary voyage. It's a horrible thing that people go through to come here illegally, you know. And I know they have a really bad situation at home. We have to understand it's a bad situation when they get here too, and there are people who are going to take advantage and abuse them here and there, and what they do to the children is disgusting. It's really disgusting. Maria Full of Grace, what year was that? She was from somewhere down there, and she was just coming here, and but like I said, there's people who, in that case she was trafficked. They made her be a drug mule, you know what I mean, in order to come here. So that movie was 2004. This is what I'm saying. So the idea that it's not a great thing having an open border, or having people be trafficked or what's the word, shepherded into this country illegally, because there's people who are going to harm them. But it was a thing. It was known. It was known all those years ago because of movies like this, because of stories that came out at the time, that people are told, give me $5,000. They're brought here and they give you 5,000 more. And then the people have to work that off as slaves, one way or another. And sometimes the young ladies are prostituted, pimped out, because they owe this debt. And then maybe they charge them room and board after that. You know what I mean? But when it's election time, all they tell you is, oh, you know, these people have a bad life in their other country and they're just trying to come here, and anybody who doesn't want them to come here is a racist, and they're this and they're that. No, we're not. No, we're not. And there are many reasons, but brushing everything under the rug is a disservice to so many people, and the children that are killed and left for dead, or whether they are harvested, you know, the things that go on. I'm sure there's a lot more, but as a movie, this is a good movie, and you can watch it and you can understand what's happening. I mean, there were two women in my row who just immediately started talking about if they wanted to buy like something from some catalog, like okay, I'm done watching the movie, now let me get back to real life, you know, there's a sale at Penny's, you know what I mean. There are those people, unfortunately. I don't know how they ended up at the movie, but I actually ended up in the bathroom with them. They still weren't talking about the movie. They were talking about going to lunch or whatever. I've never been the kind of person who doesn't want to know. I look at the disgustingness. I call it out when I can. I don't understand why I don't have more money, which equals power, because then I would do more to help people. I would just have a big mouth, you know. That's it. But I hope people can watch the movie. It's a good movie, and it's a necessary movie. It's not necessary, like, I know some people think some movie about old-timey slavery. I remember when 12 Years a Slave came out, and I was on I used to go to a certain website and talk about awards every day. I used to talk about the Oscar race with a bunch of other movie fans, and they were trying to call me a racist because I didn't like 12 Years a Slave. And Train to Busan should have won that year, if it's the same year, because I think it is. I don't even know if it was nominated. I just looked up Train to Busan, and it was the same year as 12 Years a Slave next to it. I don't know if it would have counted as the same year because it's Korean, whatever. But I wasn't a big fan of 12 Years a Slave. It was good, but I didn't love it. So I remember somebody arguing with me about, you know, trying to call me names, and I said, what are you talking about? I said, slavery still exists. Thinking about this. And they try to call me stupid and ignorant. People are always trying to call me stupid and ignorant because I know something they don't, or they're not thinking about what I'm thinking about. They're like, no, slavery ended, thinking only about black people being slaves in the United States. And I'm like, no, slavery still exists. And like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, people being trafficked? And they acted like I was stupid. I clearly remember that. So whatever year 12 Years a Slave was, I was talking about with educated people about movies, people who should have seen the movies I just talked about, and who were acting like I was an idiot because I wasn't listening to the same sound bites they listen to every day, and I knew that slavery was still rip-roaring in the United States of America because of stuff like this. So, people don't want to know, but they want to see themselves as educated. They want to pretend like but they only care in the past. They only care about the civil rights movement. back in the 60s. They only care about, like, when Brokeback Mountain was around. People like Roger Ebert were fighting the civil rights movement and campaigning for Crash. Right? When the real struggle at the time was for gay people who didn't have gay marriage and stuff like that. But then this is what I'm saying. You have people who were so educated in the past that they don't know about today. And now we're in a situation where what's happening to these children, I don't really know. You see documentaries, you see child stars talking about certain things, like I said, and they're still afraid to say the whole story. That's how bad it is. When people are afraid to talk, something is really going on. And when people can be canceled from Hollywood for saying something about it, that means it's there. So, watch the movie. It's a good movie to watch, even if you don't give a shit about anybody else. And you don't care about other people's problems. And you want to vote blue no matter who. Whatever. Okay? But it's still a good movie. So please, watch it as a movie fan. Watch it as somebody who likes to watch all the movies that are getting some kind of, what do you call it? Not necessarily Oscar buzz, because God forbid they would ever do that. But, because it should. But movies that get, what do you call it? Water cooler talk. Are there still water coolers? I don't know. But, yeah. Great movie. Great performances. Love my Apocalypto guy. Yeah. Go see it.